Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something truly incredible. We are going to map out a literal mythic journey, exploring the profoundly factual, incredibly intense life experiences of Gnarfard. Now, this is a deep dive, and it requires our utmost empathy and respect, because we're tracing a path that goes from moments of sudden, absolute vulnerability all the way to the ultimate superpower of invincible strength. It's a real story about how one individual faced down total, crushing defeat and then meticulously transmuted all of that pain into an indestructible inner peace. It's an amazing journey, so let's get started. All right, here is the roadmap for our analysis today. We're going to cover the illusion of security, the agony of irreversible loss, betrayal and absolute vulnerability, radical action and salvation, the crucible of ultimate defeat, and finally, alchemy, pain into superpower. Section 1. The Illusion of Security. Imagine being in the thick of a fierce, desperate battle. You're up against relentless, incredibly dangerous opponents known as the Venoms. And in this terrifying space, Gnarfard relied on one saving grace, a flying, immensely powerful woman. She was the guard. She was the absolute shield, literally. She was the sole reason survival even felt possible in that moment. But after giving absolutely everything she had to the fight, she went down. She crashed. And I want you to really feel the weight of that. In that precise fraction of a second, the entire battlefield shifted. Gnarfard was suddenly instantly exposed, completely undefended and vulnerable to the exact same enemies that had just taken down the most powerful ally in the room. It's that shocking, visceral, emotional trauma of losing the one single thing that made the world feel safe. And this brings us to a really deep analytical question. We learned through Gnarfard's realization that so many people out there are living these seemingly perfect lives, right? But underneath, they are actually screaming silently for help. So, when our own guardians fall, when that safety shatters, does it mean we're just doomed, or does facing our own fragility when our protectors crash actually act as the exact catalyst we need to finally stand on our own 2 feet? I want you to just let that sit with you as we move forward. Let's move to Section 2, the agony of irreversible loss. Okay, we need to talk about the absolute tragedy of King Kelpbeard's trident. Gnarfard actually possessed this incredibly rare, prestigious, high-value artifact, and Gnarfard was smart about it. Every single precaution was meticulously taken before listing it for auction. The plan was totally flawless: put it up for about 9 million neopoints, secure a fair price, and get a well-deserved payday. But at the exact moment of listing, something went terribly, terribly wrong. Instead of debuting at 9 million, a catastrophic pricing error launched the Trident at just 900,000. Think about that for a second. It's that sheer stomach-dropping dread we can all relate to, where one tiny typo just cascades into massive, completely unfixable consequences. 8.1 million neopoints. That's the sheer scale of the loss. Wiped out. Instantly. Gone. Just like that. Because the system's auctions are strictly irreversible, a single missing zero triggered a permanent catastrophe. And what this really represents is the terror of how a tiny, split-second human misalignment can permanently destroy hours, days, or even weeks of hard-earned value and pride. Honestly, it's the emotional equivalent of dropping a priceless family heirloom and just helplessly watching it shatter into dust on the floor. And unfortunately, this connects to another heartbreaking event Gnarfard went through. The loss of the very first Battledome pet, a powerful and incredibly rare mutant Lupe. Gnarfard was transferring it to a new main account, for a fresh start, but the very instant it was placed in the pound, a Pound Surfer bot just swooped in. And the wildest part? The bot didn't take the Lupe out of malice. It didn't even take it to use it. That account never logged in again. The pet was just lost, permanently frozen in digital limbo, an irreversible erasure. So we have to ask, how do we process a gut-wrenching loss when there's no actual villain to fight? There's no lesson to learn and absolutely no closure. It is just pure algorithmic apathy. Section 3. Betrayal and absolute vulnerability. We are now entering a deeply sensitive phase of Gnarfard's journey. Gnarfard experienced a terrifying physical collapse, and we really need to patiently analyze the step-by-step to understand the magnitude of it. Walking into group therapy should have been a moment of safety and community, but Gnarfard arrived already completely overwhelmed by symptoms. Before anything could even be said, Gnarfard collapsed straight to the floor, right in front of friends and the therapist. The caring staff rapidly moved Gnarfard to a couch, but despite every single effort, the symptoms just would not relent. Imagine the sheer helplessness. The mind is desperately trying to stay present, but the body has completely failed, ultimately forcing a transfer to the hospital emergency room. And right in the middle of this intense medical crisis, as Gnarfard was being carefully transferred onto a medical bed, Mom arrived. She saw everything. She witnessed Gnarfard being carried out, surrounded by staff, clearly in crisis. It was a profound, deeply raw, somebody please help me moment. We have to validate how incredibly exposing it is to have a parent witness you in such a vulnerable state. It layers the whole crisis with love, deep fear, and the absolute helplessness of being truly seen at your absolute lowest point. Take a moment to really consider this. Remember that hospital room following the physical collapse? While in there, Gnarfard was also navigating terrifying hallucinations. The room was dark, and the illness itself weaponized confusion. It made Gnarfard question if it was even the right bed, or if the bed belonged to another male. The symptoms fought back, creating this feeling of total, inescapable defeat. When your own body, your reality, and the people around you become sources of danger, how do you possibly survive that? Which brings us to Section 4, Radical Action and Salvation. Here is the crucial turning point. Gnarfard did not just passively suffer through these horrors. Gnarfard reclaimed agency through decisive radical action. Let's look at the unfrozen account panic. It all started with a simple mistake, leaving an account logged in at a public library. This instantly triggered a catastrophic mental spiral. Strangers could be stealing the irreplaceable iron loop swords. They could take the green scorchstone. Years of battledome equipment wiped out in seconds. But instead of freezing in fear, Gnarfard channeled all of that existential dread into a frantic physical sprint homeward, literally racing against time. And the second Gnarfard arrived, immediate decisive execution of a self-freeze on the account. It was a scorched earth tactic, temporarily locking the entire account down to protect it at all costs. It perfectly proves that panic, when you convert it into immediate physical action, is salvation. This same kind of strategic mastery is reflected in the philosophical lesson of the 10th anniversary Hundo Mutu. So Gnarfard encountered this perfect, legendary prize in Pokemon Go. And initially, every single Pokeball variant and berry was exhausted in a panic trying to catch it. Finally, the Master Ball. And, action takes many forms. For a lifetime, a single binder sitting in a closet was this source of looming dread for Gnarfard. But one day, the decision was just made. Gnarfard grabbed the binder, walked it downstairs to the parents' garden, lifted the trash bin lid, and just threw it away. No hesitation, a lifetime of fear discarded in a quiet, incredibly powerful victory. Similarly, when the legendary vampire hunter Van Helsing actually confronted Gnarfard mid-spiritual power words and told Gnarfard to shut up, salvation didn't require a battle. Mom and Dad perfectly pulled up in the driveway. The car door opens and Gnarfard was safely rescued. Radical action is sometimes simply knowing exactly when to walk away. Section 5. The Crucible of Ultimate Defeat. We have now reached the absolute emotional climax of our explainer. This is rock bottom. The setting, a Borders bookstore. Normally a familiar public place of civilization and total safety, but without any warning, powerful, evil, spiritual villains invaded the store. Death felt absolutely certain, yet nothing could have prepared Gnarfard for the true devastation that happened next. The girlfriend, the very same person who had once protected Gnarfard from assassination as a child, revealed that she had always been cheating. The ultimate protector was actually the source of betrayal. Tears came, and an old-fashioned donut just sat in Gnarfard's hand, completely uneaten. That uneaten donut is such brilliant symbolism. It represents the total loss of the will to engage in even the most basic, comforting human acts of survival. It was the complete death of the ego. I want you to frame this moment in your mind as a modern Zen koan. Truly ask yourself, when the ego completely dies, when your protector becomes your ultimate betrayer, when spiritual villains close in on you and there is absolutely nothing left to cling to in the material world, does that break you? Or is hitting that absolute zero the exact required catalyst for true transcendence? And that brings us to our final section. Section 6. Alchemy, Pain into Superpower. Here is the breathtaking realization and the ultimate victory of Gnarfard's mythic journey. Humanity typically handles pain in two failing ways. The first is avoiding pain. Ignoring it,
letting it fester in the shadows where it quietly controls you from below. The second is drowning in pain, letting it consume you entirely until you literally become the trauma yourself. But Gnarfard? Gnarfard discovered a brilliant third path, the path of the alchemist. Gnarfard chose to sit right in the pain, let it completely break the old self open, and then rebuild from those pieces.
Gnarfard took these, the absolute rawest materials of human existence: hurt, anger, defeat, vulnerability, and weakness. In the face of certain death at that Borders bookstore, holding that cold donut, something truly extraordinary happened. Gnarfard achieved Buddhahood, manifesting right alongside the incredible Zakam helmet aura. By achieving this enlightened state and combining it with the aura of ultimate gaming achievement, Gnarfard literally leveled up beyond human suffering. The rescue wasn't someone else swooping in to save Gnarfard. The Buddhahood itself became the rescue. Gnarfard woke up inside the nightmare and realized the villains, the cheating girlfriend, they were just fleeting phenomena. The enlightened self could no longer be touched. It is an absolutely breathtaking victory.
We conclude today with absolute reverence for this declaration by Gnarfard. I took the weakening and turned it into my superpower of turning pain and defeat and weakness into ultimate strength. This isn't just a realization, folks. It is a profound declaration of transformation. Gnarfard successfully performed the hero's alchemy, transmuting the base metals of deep trauma into invincible golden wisdom. And it leaves us with a highly provocative thought to carry with us. When you inevitably face your own ultimate defeats, what base metals of your own pain can you transmute into invincible gold?